In 1983, a museum and cultural gathering place was established here in Nova Scotia, specifically in Cherrybrook, one of the 4 Black communities in Preston Township, east of Dartmouth. It is a place where the rich history of Canada's oldest and long-standing Black communities can be discovered and explored. This institution is known as the Black Cultural Center, the first and largest museum dedicated to Black history and the legacy of African Nova Scotians. Joining me today is none other than Mr. Russell Grosse, the current executive director of the center. Welcome to the show, Russell.
Glad to be here.
You're a busy man.
It keeps me out of trouble.
It does, but it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. Mm-hmm. You and I are long-standing, schoolmates, and even working at the Black Cultural Center, which some of our beginnings go to. So I always feel pleasure and honor to have that time to sit with you. And I kind of have just a few questions, and you can expand upon any of them as you wish. But what inspired you? Well, first of all, let me back up. I'm excited here, folks. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I am a native of the community of Cherrybrook. Very passionate, and my whole career has been based at the Black Cultural Center. I'm a professional video producer, and I've worked in broadcast for many years, and that's how I had my humble start at the Black Cultural Center, and started there. This year in June will mark 30 years.
30 years? Russell's not been that long.
It has been, yeah.
Okay, don't tell anybody else that because you're giving our age away.
Exactly.
So what inspired you to become involved with the Cultural Center?
It was sort of by accident, really. At the time, I was working with Dartmouth Community Cable, which now is Eastlink, and we produced a weekly television show for the Black Cultural Center called Umoja, and it was hosted by Dr. Carolyn Thomas. And while I was there producing that show, we would go there once a month and produce, a number of episodes. Dr. Henry Bishop talked to me about a neat initiative that the Black Cultural Center had, and that was to do community narratives, to interview some of the elders in the community and to capture their stories and their history. And so I was able to take on that role, and thought it was very exciting. It was a summer period that I was going to take that on from June to August, and I never left after that. I sort of caught the history bug, and it just went on from there.
Yes, captivating or capitalizing and documenting our stories is kind of almost like a dying art, because as the elders die off, right, we lose that history. Right. Share a little bit about programs and incentives that the Culture Center offers.
Yeah. Well, as you had mentioned, the Cultural Center is at the stage right now after reaching 40 years last year. It was opened in 1983. And I think that, we realized at that point that the center has to change with the times, and the center has to become something that, embraces the realities of community today. And so we wanted to expand the center, and so we've launched a capital campaign to expand the center, basically doubling the footprint of the place, so it'll be double in size. The new expanded facility will include more resources for museum collection and artifact storage, also a 300-seat community amphitheater, so that, some of the many events that we, usually put on inside the center that were limited by the space will, provide that opportunity within community. And the other aspect is to really bring forth the idea of a knowledge hub on Black culture and history. The longstanding history of our communities in Nova Scotia here form the largest and oldest Black communities that are multi-generational across Canada. And we feel that national story has to be told. And so the center is working actively to tell our story nationally. And so, when the center first started, it was a provincially mandated organization. And because of budgets, it, did a lot of work in the Preston Township communities and not so much out in the rest of the province. And over the years, we've expanded across the province. And now we're doing projects that are on a national scope.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That's wonderful to hear. I remember sitting at your 40th anniversary for the Black Culture Center in that beautiful space that you guys transformed into a dining. This is a universal space, right? Not just a community space, but you're bringing people to come in. And I don't know if you guys still do tours. Do you still do tours? Are you still actively doing tours?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So the market and tourism in the museum industry has changed drastically over the years. Now when people come and visit the center, they have a thirst for, learning about the history. Before it was sort of like almost pulling teeth to try to get people to go through the museum. If you remember those days when, we worked there as summer students. But I think that what's happened is that there's been, a real awakening in society about diversity and inclusion. And I think people are eager to learn. And so, we see, 15 to 20,000 visitors per summer. And we also have a very active school program that continues on. If you remember years ago, Dr. Henry Bishop was, synonymous with the school program and really engaging with the students. And that legacy continues on today. And, we see a lot of schools from across the province. And, when the pandemic hit, and we, pivoted and started to do things virtually, we saw a significant increase in the number of schools that are outside of Metro Halifax that are doing virtual programs with us now, and schools outside of Nova Scotia. And so that has been an amazing way to communicate what we do and offer a sense of understanding of our culture. And social media, of course, has played a big part of that as well.
It does. Are you guys coming into the AI area? Well, because that's a sensitive topic now,
it
right?
Is.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've looked into, and something that we're quite honestly concerned about. We've had some discussion panels, as you had mentioned. There's varying things that happen at the center. One of the major discussion panels that we had over the last couple of years is one that we worked on with the Government of Canada on misinformation and hate crimes that happen online. And the fact that, when there are posts that are put up that about Black history or Black first, sometimes, there's some quite negative comments that come from those. And then there's also the information that's sort of misinformation that's out there that, detracts from the history. And as we're looking at that, we're really concerned about what that means in respect to AI, because, typically when it comes to AI, what the technology is at its heart, it's basically a technology that scours all resources and then comes up with the best answer.
Yes.
If the information exists out there is misinformation, then it's going to choose that answer from misinformation. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we develop that? How do we fact check, content about our history? I mean, even when we think of locally within our communities, there have been stories and there's been history that's been passed down generation to generation. And as it's been passed down, it's changed, and we lose some of that history. And so I think it's crucial that our community starts capturing their history and capturing it in an effective way. So we're hoping that in the new expanded center and the Knowledge Hub concept that, we really will be able to embrace genealogy in a more effective way. Because when we look at the genealogy right now, we look at the major migrations of Blacks that came to Nova Scotia, that settled here. There's always a question, first off, which migration, is my family a part of? And it's establishing that using timelines and, say, census records and stuff like that. And then taking that a step further and learning about, those communities. Like, for example, for, the 30 years that I've been at the Black Cultural Center, I actively, searched and looked for my own roots. And, it's been a hard process.
It's hard.
And it's not a whole lot of information
Right,
out there.
right.
And it's just been recently that, I've learned that my family is migrants of the refugees of the War of 1812, and that trace back to, Baltimore, Maryland, Chesapeake Bay area. So when you look at that, there's a lot of work that can be done and a lot of work that needs to be done.
Right. That would be great. And then I think also the younger students would also benefit from that as well.
Very much so. And I think that's the key. I think it's all about the younger generation, because I think, the older generation, an example, the church was so important, and that became a center of the community that allowed people to know everyone. And, there were gatherings that followed after church, and when there were special church services, I can remember as being a kid that, you'd go to your grandmother's place and you'd meet uncle and aunt so-and-so and all of that. The kids today, they're not that attachment isn't there. And most of them don't even know, beyond their parents,
And we laugh about it, but it's a serious concern, because there's a disconnect, or, you don't feel a part of like having a strong identity, right? Again, if we don't know who we are and where we come from, and if it doesn't start at home, and we have a generation that is raising a lot of young folks raising babies, right? that it's a different generation from what I've grown up with. And so how do we navigate through all of those, and the church and the Black Culture Center and all these things that we call the hubs? Those are the key pieces. They're like the heartbeat of the community. So the value of having the Black Cultural Center in the center of the community, that people can come to it and without having to necessarily leave out. It's a neutral spot, right?
Yeah, it is. And the idea is, with the expanded center, is to really focus on how we can be innovative to attract that younger audience, using the latest in things like, TikTok and, Instagram, and using, virtual reality and all of those, cutting edge technologies that really embrace the younger generation.
Yeah. And so I know you said a theater. Is there a music studio that's going to still be a part of, because music's a big thing too.
It is, yeah. So when we talk theater, we're talking about all art disciplines. And so, we're looking at something that is a multi-purpose style theater that would have, the proper acoustics for artistic performances, whether they're dance, music, or any other type of performance. And then also, community spaces that we can...
Like a kitchen.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Exactly. Community spaces for things like, large gatherings where there'd be a commercial kitchen and training programs and events, community events. We look at the fact that, if you just even look at the landscape of, within Metro Halifax, there's very large venues and there are very small venues. There's no venues that are sort of in between that, that could serve the community. And so I think that it will create an opportunity that we're filling, a little bit of a hole that's there. It's not going to be the end all be all. And we know that, there are hopes and dreams within our community to really, embrace the theater and arts, and to, get to a place where we can have our own theater that, holds a couple thousand people and can do some amazing shows. But, there's a stepping stone. We have to get there. And I think the Black Cultural Center, is a longstanding, incredible community organization that sort of can help start that discussion and start that process. If we start something, hopefully the community will gravitate towards it, and it will help grow the community even bigger.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that. What about the outside land space? I know you guys used to do some gardening, or were open to some gardening beds there. Like, is that a part of the future plan as well?
It is, yeah. Okay. So a lot of green space, and of course, the new facility, an expanded facility, will be, environmentally friendly, like using geothermal heating and solar power and that sort of thing. And really, one of the things that's really unique about the feasibility study that we did when we looked at the expansion is that we're utilizing the property the center's on. So we're not in a need where we have to buy more property. We're taking, some of the exterior space, some of the green space that's there, and doing that. We're even looking at, a good part of the expansion is taking the current building that's there, that's in really good condition, and modernizing it. It's in great condition, but when you walk inside, you see the age of it. It feels like, an old school sort of thing,
yes,
right?
It
but
does.
We're going to modernize it.
Yes, no, I'm excited for you guys, and you're also in a sweet spot because you're right off the highway. You're on a bus route, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy accessible, and there's plenty of parking.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
And
like, I think that's going
to be a big bonus of it. And I think, like if you look at City Center and you look at downtown Halifax, there are great venues, but parking is always an issue. And, there's an appetite. And we see that, there's so much talent that's in our community that can be embraced by, the center making this move to further expand, and what's so unique about the Black Cultural Center is that on one hand, we're a leading museum on Black history in Canada, and we're very happy about that, but we're more than a museum. We're a community gathering place. We're a place that, we can create change. I even remember when thinking about events that there were some years ago that you did a fashion show there.
I think that was wonderful. We should do something like that again.
We should, yeah.
I really would love that.
But even the fact that how we transformed the place that evening to, to give it a runway, a virtual runway, really. Yeah.
But what do you envision the future of the center to be, and goals that you're still trying to achieve? I know there's the expansion, but what do you envision beyond that?
I think what I envision, for the Black Cultural Center, and what I envision is, in my tenure as executive director to achieve, is that the center continues to become a household name, that it becomes a place that irregardless whether you're from the Black community or not, you feel safe to go there. You feel safe to understand and get a better understanding of the culture and the heritage. And the key thing that I think is going to be, sort of the determining factor is the day when people of color, Black people, African Nova Scotians, can walk into the Black Cultural Center and have pride in their history and in their past, and not look at the fact that, we've had, a tumultuous past. We look at, the ills of slavery and marginalization and all of that. And sometimes that can bring us to a place where we look at our past in a negative light. But I think what the story really is how we overcame and how we persevered and how we kept going. The fact that, our communities are over 400 years old, we kept that legacy going. And how do we do that? It was because of togetherness. It was because
Absolutely.
of the strength of our community.
Absolutely. Well said, Russell. Okay, so for our viewing audience, how can an individual or an organization or working groups work towards supporting the Black Culture Center, whether it's volunteering, donations, or other means? Can you let the audience know what that looks like for you?
Well, the best way to follow us is, of course, on our social media platforms that are very active, and our website, www.bccns.com. And what we ask of people is to keep the word going about the Black Cultural Center. Each one teach one. If you know someone and you meet someone and they haven't heard about the Black Cultural Center, let them know. Bring them in for a visit. We'd love to see them. And of course, support our programs and events, and that's the best way. I think, the center has a monumental task. I mean, the expansion is a project that's going to be a $40 million project. But we feel that, in this province of Nova Scotia, whether it's corporate support, government support, individual support, there are ways to support it. And, I think the community just has to rally around what the center is doing. And I think that makes everyone else feel it's important.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations yet again. Is there any final words that you would like to say to our viewing audience?
No, I guess I would say that, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the work that, your organization is doing to be able to empower and to share information. I think this medium is a perfect medium. I think that people are able to understand a little bit more about the dimensions in our community. And I think that, we talked about it earlier about this whole idea of misinformation. It helps move away from misinformation. And I think that a change in diversity, a change in understanding and racial discrimination, all will come from people being better informed.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Russell. Well said. Love having you on the show. I do hope that you would consider coming again when your schedule allows. Okay then, folks, there you have it. We were talking to Russell Grosse, the Executive Director of the Black Culture Center here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He's been talking to us about, the beginnings, the sweet beginnings, and the expansion and what's happening around the center. Please take the moment to go and join in and do a tour and be a part of the great works that they're doing. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to this channel and follow us on our social media handles. I'm Nicole Johnson, and you're watching Community Updates.